Hello and welcome along to another episode of the Tackling Sport podcast. And it's Daniel here, joined alongside me as always by my brother Sean.
How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad. And it's basically ending our Premier League coverage for the season. And we've obviously got Premier League predictions that's gone well all week. But we wanted to have a bit of a review on maybe a little bit of early predictions we would have gone through. Sean, maybe before we get into the predictions, maybe just an overview of the season in general. Like I know at times with behind closed doors, but how big a factor has that been on the season?
Yeah, I think it's been proven in the last couple of weeks when fans have been brought back. First the Carabao Cup game or the Cup final rather, when I think it was Man City won a corner when it was 0-0 in the first half, and you just heard the fans roar, and you're like, I mean, it's just what have we been watching now? It feels a bit like a lie, and is this mad season gonna give us a mad ending? And then you look at Liverpool in a top four race, and you think, six home games in a row they lost. There's no way they'd lose that with fans. So I think that the season's probably run its course. It's done a job, but I think very much so. It is kind of dragged on a little bit at this stage, and it'd be good to get back. Look, we mentioned a few weeks ago, I think for football, the Euros needs to be massive. It needs to kind of be that feel good factor. I think the 2016 Euros was like that. I'm not sure, maybe because Ireland were great, but it kind of does feel like it needs a big tournament, the Euros, and a happy ending, i.e. England not winning for us. But I definitely think it needs a big Euros, and especially with fans, everything needs to go safely because let's not forget a couple of COVID cases and everything's up in arms. So I think football does need to look after itself.
Yeah, and I suppose before we get to the Euros, we have the last weekend of the season, and from seemingly the season kind of petering out, which we were discussing on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, you now have a situation where you have three teams going for the final Champions League spot. You've got Leicester home to Spurs, but more importantly, I guess, or probably the big game to keep an eye on is Liverpool against Palace, and Roy Hodgson going back in front of 10,000 fans at Anfield to possibly get a bit of bittersweet moment for him, maybe if he can try and stop Liverpool getting Champions League. Like those Liverpool fans basically judged Roy Hodgson as not good enough. I guess that might have been proven, correct during his time at Liverpool, but it sets it up brilliantly for a final day of the season, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure Roy definitely holds a few, I suppose, hard memories because of what happened. I definitely feel like that's the one opportunity I think that he probably will look back on. And obviously with England, he never got it right really at England. But you definitely felt that Liverpool, he was not set up to fail, but he was never going to succeed. He was never going to replace someone like Rafa Benitez or replace, and become a legend at Liverpool. And that's what those managers have to be successful there. You have to kind of break the one or two seasons, and probably similar to Brendan Rodgers, that he never just quite got over the line. And look, Roy Hodgson is someone I said I was listening back to our podcast, and I remember saying it, but I said I thought Roy Hodgson would be one of the first managers to go this year. I just thought Palace, they'd been petering around for a few years. The recruitment was slow, players were out of contract, but somehow he's just got performances out of them, some big away results. So definitely, he's definitely done his job, and I think that'll probably be the end of him, judging by what he was saying. I think it's a good way to go. Look, he's from Croydon, which is around the corner from Palace. He was a Palace fan growing up, so no better way to finish. But to think of some of the clubs he was at over his, I think, 45 years of management, which is incredible, and you'll probably never see the likes of again. I don't think we'll ever see a Premier League manager in 70 plus. I know you've got the likes of Neil Warnock maybe in the Championship. Could he get one last hurrah in the Premier League? But I think that kind of old school manager is probably dying out, and you even saw with Big Sam going out with a bit of a blast, really. And it was most bizarre.
Just on Big Sam, what did you make of his comments there? And it seemed it was bizarre. I thought not just the midweek interview, but maybe Sunday's interview where Alisson had his moments, and obviously the VAR decisions or whatever your thoughts are on that. But it was just a bit weird, I thought.
Yeah, it kind of felt a little bit like he wanted a little bit of a paycheck or something. He wants to stay in the game and keep a few bob. But the one after the West Ham game is just bizarre, really. And he's probably, in fairness to him, he's probably had to fight off that idea that he's a long ball merchant and everything like that. And to be honest, if you watch West Brom a lot this season, they're pretty exciting to watch, especially in the second half of the season. But yeah, no, it was bizarre. And even flirting with Patrick Davison, looking to get a Sky gig was just a bit bizarre as well. But no, I think when you read some of the stuff about his history and how he got out with England, he's definitely you know, when you think about some people in football that are for themselves and see the money and want to be around it, you know, I think Big Sam's probably been proven in the past to look after himself. And that interview was just bizarre. You know, he's one of them that I think now if any club went near him, I mean, they'd be so desperate to get someone like him now. Not that he probably couldn't keep them up or get results, especially with fans in the stadium, but he's just, the legacy he can leave is truly awful.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's one of those. It's one of those that, like you said, I think it was always a desperation with Big Sam. But anyway, looking to that, we have a comment in there from Matthew, and get your comments in and like the video if you're watching us live. Paul Konchesky, Christian Pulisic, and Milan Jovanic. Jesus, my pronunciation is awful there. Memories of that Liverpool team, but you can keep going on that Roy Hodgson Liverpool team. Let's not go down this rabbit hole too much. But Jesus, what a blast from the past. And Sean, you're big on being Liverpool and Brendan Rodgers. And again, I'm going all over the place here, but he kind of took over those kind of players after Dalglish, wasn't it? And the way the being Liverpool, and I watched a clip of it recently, from where they've gone there to obviously this season aside, Jurgen Klopp's brought them is phenomenal. But it's just shows you like Liverpool fans are probably where Arsenal fans were, or rather Arsenal fans were where Liverpool fans were maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think with Liverpool obviously is the new owners. It was that turn of the turn of the decade, you know, around 2010, and when all that happened, and even the way it ended with Dalglish, you know, there was a lot of kind of bad feeling towards some quarters towards how he went. I think they got them to a couple of cup finals. I don't think they won it, but the Being Liverpool documentary was brilliant. I remember watching at the time. It was on Setanta, which is now air, which is actually ending soon, but Setanta Sport. It was a brilliant, and I actually found a few clips and watched it again recently, and some of Rodgers' team talks are just brilliant, and even some of the faces you see in the dress room, and the Raheem Sterling line where he says, if you say steady to me one more time, you'll be on the first plane home. And to look where those two guys have gone in their careers, it's a bit mad. But no, when you look at Liverpool from then to now, they're a shadow of what they are. You know, Liverpool are back being a powerhouse, and you know, it's just they're back to kind of where they were. And even when you think about it, the fact that they've only one Premier League title and yet they've so many titles that going back before, and that it's just it's incredible, the history of the club, and the 6 European Cups it is now. But no, under Roy Hodgson, they were a laughing stock.
Will they get top 4?
Yeah, I think they've a couple of chances as well at it, because Villa are playing Chelsea, and Villa have had a really good season, and they'll want to end on a big note in front of 10,000 fans or whatever, probably just short of. And Jack Grealish is back for them, just transforms that side. And then Leicester against Tottenham, and Tottenham, if they win or get something from the game, they'll be in the Conference League as it is now, whether you want that or not. But Tottenham obviously have that cloud over their head with Harry Kane, which I think is the timing of it. I don't think probably sits right with me, or certainly doesn't sit right with a lot of Tottenham fans. But I definitely think Liverpool will get in. They have the momentum. I think they've dropped only 4 points in the last 9 games. Everything just seems to be clicking for them, and they've been given a couple of chances. They've kind of got a few breaks of the ball, but they've certainly taken it. And yeah,
just on Harry Kane, you think he's kind of stepped out of line, maybe just given that it's not, the season isn't over?
Yeah, I think he should have waited till at least because of the video as well. Do you know that he did an interview with Gary Neville, and obviously they've released a 5-minute clip today, and it's going to be out tomorrow. But the timing of that, I mean, it was mentioned that it was done earlier in the month, and Sky released, and they were a big part of releasing the news that Harry Kane had intentions to leave. So I'm not sure if there's a big crossover there, but it certainly doesn't sit right with a lot of people. And now I tend to agree. And obviously, look, what Harry Kane's done for Tottenham will never be forgotten, really, at the top of the Spurs goal scoring charts with Jimmy Greaves. But definitely it doesn't really sit right, that, and the fact that it's derailed their season as well. You know, they should be in a European push. To be honest, they probably should have got Europa League football, even with West Ham, but I still think they could have got it. But it does leave a bittersweet taste in the mouth, and I think there's a lot of things wrong with Tottenham. You know, you see their fans paying 60 quid for the final game, pushed up in the upper tier, you know, and it's a club in disarray. And I feel sorry for someone like Ryan Mason at the forefront of it and being asked questions about Harry Kane's future. I don't think that's right either. So I'm not sure the way it was handled. I think Harry Kane's agents brother as well, which always complicates matters. But there's been so much talk about it. And Sky, in fairness, have pushed this agenda and other media stations by repeatedly asking it, because he's the golden boy of English football. He's their best player. He's their captain. He's the one that's going to be integral to any hopes they have a lift in the European Championships. But it doesn't really sit right. I just think it's a little bit forced. And there's definitely a lot of talk about it. And the fact that Gary Neville's done his interview doesn't kind of sit right as well. It's kind of like, not jobs for the boys, but I'm gonna give you the exclusive or whatever.
And the final thing on that, where will he go? Like, will he go?
Look, I think if you want to just win trophies and you want to play in the biggest games, you go to City. I think if you want the other glory of it, and knowing that if you win a league with Manchester United or you win a Champions League, you're etched into the history books of Manchester United, which is, despite what Man City have done the last 10 years, United will probably always be a bigger club than them. And Man City, it's probably the safest option. You're going there, you're going to work under one of the greatest coaches, one of the greatest managers of all time. You're more than likely going to be playing in Champions League semi-finals and finals and cup competitions, cup finals. But I think if you go to United, I think there'll be a little bit of an inside going, if I go to United and we win a league, and I'm not sure United will pay for it. I don't see him going to Chelsea. The only circumstance maybe if Chelsea are the ones that are going to pay the extra 25 million, if it is to 150 or 125. But even still, it would be a complete own goal by Spurs and Kane to go to Chelsea. I think he's definitely going to stay in the Premier League to break Shearer's record. So I definitely think it's Manchester he's going, and I think there'll be a little bit inside him that'll be thinking, if I go to United, I get the glory of it, but City is definitely the safest bet.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting that plays out. And Kane has said himself he wants to done before the Euros, but remains to see what happens there. Let's move on to basically the main reason we did this podcast, Sean, and looking at our Premier League predictions. And you want to see me in the background, I was just typing up your ones here. Tough to fit on the thing. Well, let's see what we got here. Okay, we might even make that not a ticker. Hold on, if you give me 1 second.
Well, I went back listening to the podcast we did at the start of the season, and it's very interesting when you hear talk about now. I mean, the biggest club I got wrong, obviously, is the club who finished bottom, Sheffield United. And you mentioned, Dan, that second season syndrome, and I think you still had the mid-table, but it's just
I didn't commit to my, because the look you were giving me when I mentioned second season syndrome, and I think you had a bit of a rant about second season syndrome. And was it a myth, or am I being unfair on you?
Yeah, I think Sheffield United's recruitment has been proven to be a disaster. I mean, the 17-year-old guy, Jebson, came on or started his first game and scored a goal, and Brewster still hasn't. I think he's had 4 or 5 shots on target. I mean, it's a disaster, their recruitment. And you live and die by your recruitment. Then, just looking at it there for people obviously on the podcast, I had Fulham and West Brom to be relegated, Fulham to finish 20th, and I had Palace to finish third in the relegation zone. I think maybe the signing of Abiri Eze and obviously Roy Hodgson's experience has guided them through. But most notably there, we both had Villa very near to the drop. And obviously the difference between Villa and Sheffield United has been their recruitment, and Villa's recruitment has been spot on. I did like the signing of Watkins. We spoke about it on the podcast. But they definitely got their recruitment right in a few more areas, and signed one of the goalkeepers of the season. So that's probably a couple of my big omissions there, or the biggest gaps.
Yeah, and let's go to the main one, I guess, Leeds United, because you were kind of banging the drum of Leeds, saying, and we've got a comment actually, and I didn't see this until I started talking. Sean Dunn saying, is Sean still anti-Leeds?
Well, hold on.
Go on.
I listened back to this deliberately. I was very nice about Leeds. I wasn't derogatory or any of that. I said I thought they struggle for goals. I got proven wrong with Bamford. I don't think anyone at the start, I don't even think Patrick Bamford in his wildest dreams thought he'd be the second lead.
So that's your defence then. That's your defence. That's
Bamford, a little bit of my defence. But no, Leeds, look, I said Leeds would get a couple of massive results as well. I thought they'd struggle at home, maybe without the fans and stuff, but they've been absolutely brilliant this year, and the way they finished the league has been incredible. I think since Christmas, I think they're 6th in the league on some of their results against the big sides. Very interested to see what happens next year with Bielsa and his new contract. Do they go in the transfer window? Because they got it. Rafinha was a brilliant sign, and players like Dallas. And maybe second season syndrome from them. Will it be difficult because the weight of expectation of the fans getting back in? Obviously, it'd be brilliant on the weekend. They're playing West Brom, 6,000 or 7,000 at Ellen Road again. It'd be a joy to see that. But potential full house next year, I think, the weight of expectation, they might struggle a little bit more. But I did say they'd be comfortably. I did say they'd stay up as well. So I didn't have them relegated, but they've been a joy to watch this year. And like I said, I don't think anyone predicted Patrick Bamford to score a few goals. And when he scored one on the first day of the season against Van Dijk, I still didn't think he'd score many goals, but fair play to him.
We've got Connor in the comments there saying the champ is here, but let's go up your table then, Sean. So Burnley kind of was a 15th, and it'll come up on the screen there in a second. Brighton, kind of similar to what you did. I guess, Newcastle 11th, although they probably end up not too far from there now. I think Leicester at 9th. I was really against Leicester. I'll have mine up in a sec now as well. But Leicester surprised you this season, albeit they're going to end up probably 5th, aren't they?
Yeah, we both had Leicester in 9th. I just think it's really weird what's happened.
Just there's that last thing on Leeds there. Paddy Bamford's never in there. So, that's Paddy Bamford's biggest fan, James Moffat now.
I'm not sure if he was never in there. And the thing with Leicester was, I thought the Champions League, and they lost a few big players. Obviously, Chilwell gone for massive money, but their recruitment has been spot on. Look, I think it's going to be, I wouldn't say a disaster, but I think it'd be a massive blow for them if they don't get Champions League. And they're definitely behind the 8 ball in that. And to do it 2 years in a row is just a little bit much. But they won the FA Cup, so I think that they'll at least have that to go forward to next year. They need to give a Europa League a good crack, because they're well able for that competition. And Rodgers, he's very quick in his in his post-game interview after the FA Cup. I don't know if you picked it up, Dan, that he said he's been in 7 cup finals. And
I've never texted you. I was going to text you straight away. He brought it up unprompted on BBC. For
NBT.
I'm BT. Well, I saw it, but there you are. And no one had known that record. Well, at least I didn't hear it in the build-up. So yeah, it did cross my mind. Right. Although joking aside, it's an incredible record. I know a lot of it was with Celtic, but
yeah, no. But even there's a couple of All Firm finals in that. It just felt like he was making his point now. But one thing that Rodgers has been kind of poor in, and including Liverpool, I don't remember too many big European nights under him, is his European record. There seems to be a mental block there. And Leicester this year, the way they lost to Slavia Prague, even in the group stages, I thought they were pretty poor. I watched them a couple of times, on the highlight show and stuff. Obviously as an Arsenal fan, you've a vested interest in the Europa League. Hopefully it's not the Conference League next year.
Well, we'll cover Europa Conference League at the end because I've figured it all out, but go on.
But I must say, I think even without Iheanacho's goals in the second part of the season, these are all things I don't think anyone had factored in. Iheanacho scoring goals, I think everyone kind of was writing them off and stuff. But Leicester being great, but I think we had them down as 9th. I think they'd be disappointed not to finish top 4. I think that the stat that they the most days spent in the top 4, I think that's a killer for them.
And they haven't been in top 4 all season, or they haven't been out of the top 4 all season. Moving up the line, you going to the top 4. You went City to win the league, which unfortunately will come to me in a second. I made a mess of, but by and large, you didn't put Arsenal in the top 4. But I know they may finish 7th. In fact, I'm pretty confident they actually will, based on who the teams are playing. But they, 2 places off 5th doesn't sound what Arsenal have actually been this season, I guess. Albeit that table that's been doing the rounds on Twitter shows we're second in the league since the last 23 Premier League games, which I was truly, truly shocked by that stat. Yeah,
my first 8 or 9, my top 10 actually isn't too bad. I think I've got the top 4. I got City to win the league, which is obviously the big one. You want to get who wins the league.
It's a little sliding there, but go on.
Yeah, I remember I listened back to it and I just said Guardiola would just prove people wrong again. And well, not even wrong. I don't think he's many doubters at this stage. I think obviously the big omission for everyone and anyone who did some sort of predictions is West Ham. No one gave them any chance. And in fairness, I didn't have them that low. I had them at 13th. Dan, you had them at 16th, so I'll take.
Well, hold on. We'll get to me in a sec. I'm not on the stand here. Matthew Murphy's a great comment in here. West Ham 13th. Put some respect on Moisey's name, and he's dead right.
Yeah, I wasn't too. A lot of teams had them at 17. A lot of podcasts and stuff that I've seen had them relegated. So I'm happy to say I didn't have them relegated. I had them one place below Sheffield United.
That's not a great little two there, is it?
No, it doesn't sound great. But my top 9, I've got
Go on.
most of them. I've got most of them there. Arsenal obviously will probably finish 5th. I had Everton to finish 7th. They'll be 7th or 8th. Spurs 6th. We all know what happened to Spurs at the end of the season. But I think obviously for a lot of people, the ones that are the big difference is probably Villa and West Ham. I think they were 2 teams that you could have bargained for right away to get relegated. But the step up in Jack Grealish this year and their recruitment, and obviously West Ham with David Moyes, who I think will take a lot of the credit, or should take a lot of the credit, and obviously the signings of Souček and Soufal and the recruitment as well just seems to be right. So I think the big thing for a lot of those sides is recruitment. If you can get your recruitment right, it gets you a certain amount of points. But I'm John, I'm not too disappointed with how I finished up. There is a few bad ones, but no, I'll take it all on the chin.
Well, let's move on to mine here, which is going down the bottom of your screen. We got Liverpool in 1, City 2, Chelsea 3, United 4, Arsenal 5, Spurs 6, Wolves 7, Southampton 8th, 9th Leicester, 10th Everton, 11th Leeds. Happy enough with that. Sheffield United 12th. Despite, like you said, I got the second season syndrome. Brighton, Burnley, Newcastle, West Ham, Villa, Palace, West Brom, Fulham. Do you want to maybe you quiz me here, Sean? Anything
our bottom 3 were the same. We both said Palace would struggle. You'd Villa 17th, I'd Villa 17th, West Ham 16th, Dan. West Ham and Villa, they're probably 2 to start with. Any response?
The West Ham, in a weird way, I was lucky because I had them close to between West Ham, Villa, and Palace, and I was thinking West Ham 18th. And as it was funny, actually, Connor's in the comments there, Connor Swords, and he had mentioned Antonio, and I just thought back to Antonio, going, I think they have enough goals there. They'll be fine. So I'll put them 16th. But in a lucky escape, I could have easily relegated them. But yeah, obviously they've proven me wrong. And similar to you, Sean, I still thought it was all going to fall apart with Moisey. I don't think they'll do well next season. I think the fans is a big factor. I know you didn't say it is.
Expectation.
And I don't like that. I think it's a bit of a toxic atmosphere in West Ham, and that might be a little bit unfair, but they don't seem to get behind the man. They're never happy with them.
In fairness, it's like Newcastle. It's the owners. Yeah. It's the ownership, and I think what would be the saving grace for them is I think a lot of ownership structures will come in under scrutiny across the Premier League clubs, because obviously when it's the big 6 are involved in the owners and it's going to, I think, UK Parliament. I think Newcastle and West Ham might be saved by that, but even clubs like Derby, I think today they said Derby's takeover plan is going to be dropped. They more than likely could have a points deduction, so it's going to be difficult. But I'll give you a West Ham. You had Newcastle 15th. I don't think you'll be too far away. Burnley.
Yeah, I called Brucey anyway. Brucey.
We both had Burnley to survive. Brighton, who have been brilliant in recent weeks. You're not too far away with Leeds. We all know Sheffield United's wrong.
I want to get to. One sec, just on the Leeds, and that's all relative, because I'd have been lambasted if I put Leeds in the top 10 based on your comments, considering you probably went first. So I'm pretty happy with my Leeds predictions. In fact, I'd like to nearly upgrade that and say I got Leeds spot on this season.
Yeah, they stayed up. That's the main thing. But here's one. You had Southampton 8, and I remember they beat Villa, right? And you said Saints. I'm pretty sure it was top 4 or even top 6. And I see Matthew Murphy's comment here. Che Adams Golden Boot. Now the only saving grace is that Che Adams could be Golden Boot at the Euros for Scotland. That is your only saving grace. I'll be putting a few quid on that.
I've been watching them all season. I very much doubt that. I don't care how many chances they put on him. But yeah, I got first of all, the Che Adams Golden Boot was a 200-1 shot, and in fairness, I'm sure his expected goals similar to the rabbit hole. Connor Swords goes down a lot with Brighton, but his expected goals anyway last season was a lot more than what he scored, and I presume, I haven't bothered checking the stats this season, but I presume it's similar. But yeah, look, Southampton I got completely wrong. I got very excited in that Villa game. They went 4-1 up, didn't they? And then it was by full time, it's 4-3. I went, this team is Ralph, like the way he celebrated that Liverpool, even I was like, Jesus, would you stop, Ralph? Would you get a hold of yourself? But and on the Sheffield United thing, I'm considering myself like, I called it, but I didn't back myself, and I put them 12th, like they're like 4 places ahead of West Ham. Connor Swords commented saying no one saw the Sheffield United capitulation coming. It's appreciated. Connor, yeah, I don't think we did, Sean. We kind of covered them in your talk, but yeah, back to Saints. I got Saints badly wrong, and in fact, I would stay well away from them next season. Depends who they bring in. I see they signed Theo Walcott on a permanent deal. Yeah, yeah.
It's an
Maybe you
interesting
do
one.
all right, but yeah, like it's Theo Walcott,
Yeah, I see Graham Potter's getting a mention. Obviously, Brighton. We both had Brighton safe. But we are kind of both a bit like they could move, but they've been brilliant. Brighton. And I think a massive summer for them. Getting a few bob, maybe potentially, if their fifth
Yeah.
season in the Premier League, so the payments, everything, that the stability that brings, they've a great structure above Graham Potter with Dan Ashworth involved. I think he's the technical director there, and everything seems to be well at Brighton. And if they can keep on to Potter, they're probably going to sell Basuma. I think they might get 30, 40 million out of
40
that.
million, 40, and Liverpool are one of a number of clubs looking at him. I know they were linked with Aaron Ramsey, but a cut 10 million £10 million deal potentially. He could be available for as little as 10 million, Aaron Ramsey, and he's been linked with Liverpool as well. So it'd be very interesting because they obviously, if when Wijnaldum goes, that where do they go, Liverpool, in terms of midfield?
Well, Brighton need to be careful they don't become a sort of retirement home. I mean, Everton were like that for a couple of years under the likes of Koeman and Martinez, Schneiderlin and Rooney, all these signings, Ashley Williams, that are just kind of, you want to be careful with. And Brighton obviously have Welbeck injury prone, Lallana injury prone. They sign Aaron Ramsey injury prone. So I'm sure they would probably rather go down some of the younger route for players. We both had Wolves, Dan. We both had Wolves. I had them 8th, you had them 7th. They've been a real disappointment this year.
And I think the wheels were coming off well before the Jimenez injury, to be fair. I know it might have accelerated that process. Just finishing on Southampton, but Brian's comment, I completely agree. Ralph should have gone down for those tiers. In fact, when that comment came in, I just glanced at the bottom screen looking where I'd put Southampton again, and it just cut off at 9th, and I didn't see them all the way to 20th, and obviously I'd put them 8th, which is shocking. And Connor makes a point, Rich, of Arsenal fans to talk about retirement homes. In fairness, he's not wrong, and we'll get to Arsenal sec, but I do think Willian is honestly the worst signing in history. I was only thinking about it today properly, had a good think about it, and the worst thing about Willian's signing is Arteta had me convinced he was going to be a good signing, and I heard Robbie on Arsenal Fan TV made that point, going, we all backed him and we all just got on board with those reasons. But I know we're getting sidetracked with Sean. Carry on.
No, Wolves have been disappointing, and very interested to see what they do next year. I mean, I don't know. I was thinking about where you could potentially put teams in for next year's prediction. I wouldn't know where to start with Wolves next year. I saw maybe yesterday that Jimenez is going to be able to play next year with protective headgear. I mean, it's brilliant to hear that, because he's probably one of my most favourite strikers to watch in the league. I think he's brilliant. Probably without that injury, he probably could have been getting a move up soon. I know there was probably talks of Liverpool at one stage. Now Chelsea might have been in for them a couple of years ago, but very disappointing with that. You went. I think we both going to get the top 4 right. You had United 4th. I had United 3rd, and I said Chelsea might struggle at times in the season with Frank Lampard. I didn't realise they'd struggle that much with Frank, and he'd be gone. But you had United 4th, and Liverpool to win the league. I mean,
yeah,
not ideal.
Well, like again, if you listen back, I'd mentioned Virgil van Dijk a lot, and then he gets injured, and it's, I know maybe other fans are sick of hearing Liverpool fans say it, but it's coming in of it with no skin in the game, I guess, not being a Liverpool fan. They've definitely had their fair share of injuries. That's putting it mildly. Like, let's be fair, and not just key players like Van Dijk. I do think Klopp could have done a little bit better with this season. In fact, if they do manage to get top 4, I say fair play to them for getting them out of the hole they got themselves into. So it's not a case that it was all injuries, but obviously no, they're not winning the league, are they? So, and like you said, like City, and I was feeling a lot smug maybe 8 games in. And City were struggling massively, and it's just amazing. And you said it, I think, after the United City game. I came on in Old Trafford and I said that 2 points drop from Pep Guardiola, which you would say without spending 10 seconds looking at the game, you'd say the better team didn't really go for it. And you said he kind of played for that, and that's what he wanted, just to keep that momentum going. And I guess looking at them and the fact Diaz is going to get Player of the Year. They had Kevin De Bruyne for only half the season, or just over half the season, because had him on fantasy a lot and had to get rid of him. So it just shows you that they had their injuries, but like they have the strength and depth that Liverpool just don't, and that was always the case. And I guess portion of it may be, obviously, a lot of people always said this Liverpool team would slow down a little bit, and that never happened for such a long period of time. Whereas a combination of the injuries with COVID had maybe finally Daz come on. I do expect him to come back. Just on what you said, and I wouldn't know where to start with any team for next season, to be fair. I haven't had a chance to process it just yet, but
I kind of mentioned that a little bit for Liverpool at the start of the season. I said they hadn't kind of signed anyone. And I think that Saturday they might have signed Jota and Thiago, or maybe a couple of weeks after that. Um, I think nobody definitely saw it with Liverpool, but I think when you don't, I think it's big when you don't make, a couple of big signings when you're on top. I think you're going to struggle. And I think that's something that, to be fair, Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson always did. And I've spoken a bit about this by buying players from other teams in England. And, I was only thinking today about some of the other examples like Rio Ferdinand and people like that, signing big players from other clubs.
Wayne Rooney.
Wayne Rooney, exactly. So, I think
we might just go through United for like Michael Carrick, he would have done, Robin Van Persie. Yeah,
Roy Keane from
Keane,
Nottingham Forest. I know they got relegated, but still, I mean, that was a record transfer, and he was supposed to go to Blackburn. He'd shaken hands with Kenny Dalglish. So it's all these kind of things. I mean, there's so many reasons why Fergie was a success, but he definitely had a clear idea about that. But I had them third, you had them fourth. I think they can be really happy with their season, but next year's another massive year. I think the Europa League final is going to be big for them. I think they'll win that. I think Harry Maguire will probably play.
Just on that, does this Europa League final remind you of a Europa League final? If I just tell you the one Europa League final it's reminded me of going into of the last 5 years, what one would you say?
Emery.
No. Well, it was Emery in charge. Yeah, he probably was in charge, wasn't he? Liverpool against Seville, when Liverpool were at that stage. Yeah, I just think United are at that stage, and while I don't know if I expect United to lose or anything, like they're a far superior team, and in fact, I think that Liverpool team was a far better team than that Seville team. And in fact, when they went 1-0 up, if memory serves me correct, I remember thinking, "Oh, they have this now," and I was shocked when Seville won. But it's a massive game in that sense, and I don't know if that set back Liverpool or maybe it helped them down the line, but yeah,
well, I think losing a final like that can prove a couple of things. That Liverpool went out and spent big in the next couple of years, and they got to Champions League finals, and they've won a Champions League, and their recruitment was great. I think United are at the stage where they need the next couple of signings need to be good ones if they're to compete, and whether that's Harry Kane, whether that's another centre half and Varane or someone. I think they need a kind of big sign. And some of their signings have worked in the last couple of years. Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, that kind of buying young English players, and Maguire's not young, but buying players who are going to play for 6-7 years. Even if you look at their back four, like 3 of their back four are players they bought from other English clubs. With Luke Shaw included. So that's obviously massive. And then their academy produces some outstanding attacking talent. But that is a massive cup final for them. And I think if Maguire doesn't play, look, sometimes it makes people go, "Oh, look how good Maguire is," but other times it just makes you think, "Oh, look how little depth they have." And even going back to the summer, and you see Nathan Ake sitting on the bench for Man City, and you think, "Geez, Ake would be a brilliant player for United, left footer to complement Maguire." I know Maguire likes to play at the left side, kind of using his right foot a bit more, but I think Nathan Ake's got a bit more speed than maybe a Lindelof has. But even against Fulham, like I watched that game, I watched the first 60-70 minutes before Fulham scored, and you always fancied Fulham to do something. United are still very vulnerable.
I can't really make my mind up whether like I do think they'll come back to the pack a little bit next season. Just
they
thinking
don't control games. They don't control games, and I think when you do that and you're only 1-0 up, it always gives teams a chance. Like Fred and McTominay, I think United should be looking at Tielemans. I think really, I'm a big fan of Tielemans or someone of that ilk. I thought at the start of the season, Donny van de Beek would be kind of used in that role. Hasn't worked. I think if you're going to use Van de Beek in that role, you probably need someone who's a bit more commanding in the centre of midfield and more defensive role. McTominay's come on this season, but at 24, I think he's at a bit of a crossroad. But I definitely think they need someone like Tielemans, because that game was just topsy-turvy, and Fulham had chances, and they kind of those half chances where they could have created something, and obviously Fulham are where they are, and they were still very much exposed. And the keeper situation, I mean, Dean Henderson against Liverpool was his position on the final goal. I mean, that's just brain dead goalkeeping. And I think obviously De Gea, imagine we'll play the cup final, that experience, especially if Maguire's not playing. But yeah, it's a very interesting 3 months for United, because with the cup final, they've also got a lot of players playing in the Euros that are going to have big Euros, and that you kind of want them all firing at the start of the season, and you don't want, Bruno Fernandes maybe to get deep into the European Championships, or a Paul Pogba, but it'd be a big transfer window for them as well.
We got a really it's kind of upset me a little bit, this comment from, Spurs fan James Mode. He's given a lot to the Tackling Sport podcast this year, and we really appreciate it, James, but he just says, I've nothing to add tonight, lads. I've retired from backing Spurs. So if anyone just wants a screenshot, save me doing it at a later date, I'd be grateful. Just send it on to me on WhatsApp. Much appreciated. I
would say follow him on Twitter, but he's banned. Well, he's not banned. He kind of
trying
to explain it. Yeah.
He self-excluded himself from tweeting until Spurs won a trophy there about 7 years ago, and needless to say, he hasn't tweeted since. The
Audi Cup, come on, the Audi Cup.
Yeah, no, I think he did try to claim that. It's if Arsenal do finish out of Spurs, that's absolutely shocking on Spurs' part this weekend. Spurs, it's sad to see, Sean. I think, I don't know, I'm kind of lost for words a little bit, and Brian kind of rubbing it in, saying the smallest club in London, James, and I don't know if James will even muster a response here, to be fair.
Leighton Orient or someone, Harry Kane actually sponsored Leighton Orient.
Oh, he does. You're right.
You might be going Leighton Orient, but no. Look, I feel for Spurs because
just on that, John. The way you talked about Kane, you weren't happy with him.
Yeah. I just someone like the Bale signings, just selling a few shirts. Came back to play, the Belfry and a few other nice courses in England. Then you had the Son. I mean, Son has been very passionate about. He's been very passionate, Son, about Spurs. But I'm not sure how that's going to work if Kane goes, because if Kane goes, the whole ship could go. And even people like Lloris. I mean, Lloris has had a horrendous year, I think, and I'm not sure who their backup still is. Is it Gazanenga or Michel Vaughan? But it's a massive summer for Spurs, and they've no manager. And poor old Ryan Mason, I think, has been hung out to dry. Man, I mean, the way they sacked Mourinho was, Mourinho's record, I think he's the only man to beat Pep Guardiola in a cup final. It was just bizarre. So you do feel a little bit sorry for Spurs, but not a lot. But James is a good guy, and it was a good comment back.
Yeah, it was, and it's kind of kicked off a little bit in the comments here. But yeah, we're all football fans in there, not right? Football's always the winner, but yeah, I guess that's pretty much all on our league table. I guess Chelsea with Frank Lampard. As I said, I went with Liverpool, City. I'd say, I don't know if any comments want to come in on this one, but I'd say I'd marginally give it to you, Sean. Although the Leeds was shocking, but I guess you did have the.
Hold on. I've probably got all the top 4 teams. I got the league winner. I got 2 of the teams relegated, and the teams in and around. I got Burnley's position probably spot on. I got Everton in and around. You know what I mean? Don't worry about the small print. I've got the league winners, the top 4, and two of the 3 teams relegated. So I like my chance.
I think if you dig into the surface and listen back to the podcast, I was under immense pressure regarding Leeds and Sheffield United. So on a normal day, I would have obviously relegated Sheffield United and put Leeds up higher. And West Ham, I overthought that one. Look, Southampton. I think if it came down to Sean, I think if I put Southampton in the right position, I'd still be taking you on here saying I had you. But the fact that Saints are bordering on unforgivable, so I will, and you have the league winner, so I will give that to you. And I think we're going to get loads of the commenters' predictions as well, because this is very tough standing up here defending certain teams' positions. But all in good fun, I guess.
Yeah, and obviously, listen, we spent a lot of time at fantasy, and I was doing really well in the fantasy. I think it was 12th or something with about 7 or 8 game weeks to go, and all of a sudden, John Stones got a red card against Villa, and I looked at my team, and Souček, I think, got sent off, and I just had 4 or 5 reds, and I just went, right, that's it. I'm not, sorry, I'm not hanging in anymore. So, but I think the fantasy leagues is it Doug Bell has a good lead at the moment?
Well, here's one for you, right? So Doug Bell, and he is the absolute go to fantasy, and all my mates will understand that. But Douglas Bell, he's competed a draft, although he fell away this year. But I saw our tweet got retweeted because he's going to get a Premier League jersey of his choice. So I just haven't decided if it's DHgate yet or not. I obviously only joke, and I always buy official branded Premier League jerseys. But someone retweeted our fantasy tweet from back in September, and had added themselves to the league. And when I clicked on his profile, he was 30 points ahead of Doug. So I had to go into our league and ban him from like he's now
Oh,
officially banned.
he just entered our league.
Yeah, so he's officially banned from the league. And you know the way they add him in after next point state, and then I obviously closed the league. But that was a lucky escape, and Doug should thank me there on that one. But yeah, it's absolutely amazing because I was very worried because we had a lot of random people from and that's allowed obviously because it's an open competition, and all their bios were like 5,000 in the world, 10,000 in the world, and little Doug Bell went out and he beat every single one of them in that league.
He's not done yet. He's
not done yet. What's in it?
It's I think it's 15, 14 points. So it's a couple of swings of the ball.
Got it though. He's got the head in the game. I looked at his captain. He's just always. One thing I can say about Doug, and Matthew Murphy will know this as well, he always gets his captain right, and that's something I failed to do for years. And while this is actually my best season in a long time, the two lads I pale in comparison. But it's brilliant, and I'm very proud of him, to be fair, to win this.
Let's hope he wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing against anyone else in the league, but it was great seeing Doug there because there's a few names I don't recognise at the top, so Doug was the one that stood out. And he wasn't doing well for ages, as in he was nowhere near the top 50 or whatever, so credit to him. And that's pretty much all from the preseason predictions anyway. Any last words? I guess we've got the Euros coming up. We're going to be doing a lot of points in the Euros, aren't we? You really want to do an England deep dive, don't you? Reluctantly want to do
England and Scotland, yeah. And Scotland are my team. I'm going to buy a jersey tomorrow, and more I read about Scotland, the more I think they're going to beat England on the 8th of June, I think it is, or something. But now, like I said, hopefully it's a good Euros. It's the more I think about it, it's an absolute travesty that Ireland aren't in. I mean, the lift I would have given people, and the way we lost, and it's very disappointing. But even the way the structure. I mean, Scotland in a Nation League group below us, and they get to qualify. So it's it's more you think about it, the more you remember football. Football's corrupt, and then we've had John Delaney running it, and the League of Ireland is having a few dodgy decisions, and a few clubs in a bit of a pickle. So. Certainly we'll cover that over the summer as well.
Do you want to answer that before we go? Do you bring Trent Alexander-Arnold?
In a 26-man squad, yeah, but I'm not sure. I don't think Garrett will. Well, obviously we can do an episode on it, but
when's it getting picked? Is this
Tuesday?
Well, we do. Well, we'll see. We'll pretending in the Premier League, we'll give it a reference.
If Harrington wins the golf,
we can't be here talking about Trent Alexander-Arnold. Yeah. No offense to Trent, yeah, it'd be interesting. That England squad, we might pick our own England squads and stuff. Again, we'll see how the golf goes. I know Harrington's doing very well at the moment, but yeah, that's it. We appreciate you tuning in, and not just this episode, all season. We've got Connor Swords, and Sean Gallivan will be opening the Premier League predictions next season already, so that's great. We have that done 2 months in advance, which is brilliant. And we might kind of maybe build a little bit of a list. We might come up with ways to make it a little bit, more competitive outside the two as well. So we have a bit of a thing in that. Any suggestions are most welcome. But yeah, really appreciate anyone who's come on Premier League predictions. I don't know about you, Sean, but I've really enjoyed hearing other people's opinion. And I just think, bar none, anyone that's come on I've always kind of gone, geez, I never really thought of that and stuff. So it's great hearing different perspectives from all different fans as well.
Yeah, bar James, a couple of times.
Bar James. But I just think even James, he comes up with this, the French Darren Bent, Aubameyang, and we got a comment in earlier from Connor saying he backs, Aubameyang from Premier League top goal scorer. And in fairness to Jim, he's been the French Darren Bent ever since. Or no, sorry, the Gabonese Darren Bent. He calls someone else the French Darren. He calls
Here's Darren Bent for you. Darren Bent's actually an Arsenal fan, and he played for Tottenham, and he still prefers Arsenal now. So I mean, that's just a dig for James, really. And
there's Harry Kane there as well. But we'll leave it there. We'll get off before we get ourselves in trouble. But thanks for tuning in. If you missed any of the show earlier on, it'll be in your podcast feeds Friday morning, and if not, we'll be back on Monday with some sort of a show, either golf, Premier League, or England squad if those first two aren't that good. But yeah, that's all I've left for me. All I've left to say is it's goodbye from Sean.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from myself. Yes, Trace, we will get you on with Eamon next season. Just got that last comment in. But yeah, all it says, have a great weekend. Enjoy the Premier League, enjoy the golf. And if we're not talking to you before then, enjoy the Euros.